Hey, Steve, before we start, I was just writing this blog post about our experiences using Claude Code. And I wrote this. You told me I literally couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning all night long after using Claude Code for 2 days because all I wanted to do was get up and use it to fix things. I've got all this pent up anger at 30 years of bugs that have been piling up in this game I wrote. And now I've got a machine that can just fix them. It's like this wood chipper. You can throw in legacy bugs in my gnarly cold code base. It's a wood chipper fueled by dollars. Does
Oh,
that capture your
yeah.
sentiment?
Just to capture the initial excitement, right? Let me share my screen. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I haven't prepped, which is wonderful, right?
Yeah. This is
Means
gonna
I
be so
didn't cheat. Okay, share. It's the no cheating version. We're going to set a timer and we are going to be astonished at how fast it. I'm so excited. I'm getting chills.
Steve, maybe for people who haven't seen Claude Code, maybe you can explain it as you go for so that
Yeah, you bet. Oh man, I am so excited. Okay. So let me tell you what we're going to do and then we'll get into it. All right. And just for the record, we tried this. How long ago was it, Gene?
I think it was 2 months ago.
This is a rerun of an attempt that we had to have Jenna and I do a medium-sized task for me. In the grand scheme of things, it's small. It's porting a script to another language, really. It's a 3,000 or 3,500 line script, so it's pretty meaty, but still, it's a small task. And yet, 2 months ago, AI was unable to get it done. Claude, the best model there, using our best skills of the chop, got it real close within an hour. But boy, it was some work. Okay, so let's see how Claude Code can do with this. First, I will bring up my little Emacs session and I will show you the script right here. This here is a Ruby script. As you can see down here, it is 3,411 lines of Ruby code. It's a very old script that manages servers and other resources and assets for my online game.
AWS or G Cloud command line tool that
Exactly. It was inspired by the G Cloud command and the AWS command. And they have a very modular architecture. And this one kind of doesn't because I didn't realize it was going to get so big. So all it really has is it just has a bunch of functions. It's modular in the sense that I've namespaced them. Look, modular. But no, it's not, right? I want it to be better. And also it needs to be in Kotlin because the rest of the game code base is moving to Kotlin. The contributor team that's working with me, they like Kotlin, they don't know Ruby. So they were excited by this too.
and I imagine that there was some moment where like you had a Ruby gem problem and that made life intolerable.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, Gene's right. One of the reasons that I'm porting this is that for some reason Ruby's MySQL support on the Mac has like never worked in 10 or 12 years. After my game runs with MySQL and after a while I was finally just I give up. I give up. Like I don't know how that happens to a language community. I really don't. Anyway, we're going to use Claude Code runs in a terminal. Many of you probably have never, this may be the first time you've actually seen Claude Code. Isn't that exciting? All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go into my Wyvern subdirectory. For the record, I found out it was pronounced Wyvern and not Wyvern when I was watching The Witcher. Geralt of Rivia himself, right? Henry Cavill said, a Wyvern. And I was like, oh shit, I've been pronouncing it wrong for 25 years. Okay, here we go. Here we are in my game code base, and we're going to type Claude. Check this out, Claude.md, right? This is a thing that Claude Code made when I typed /init. What it did was it sniffed around through my code base and it generated this markdown file here. Notice there's no coloring. Isn't that kind of like a bummer, right? Like, why am I showing you all this ugly wall of text? This is Claude Code, folks. You're gonna have to get used to reading a lot of walls of text for a while till we get pretty ones in real in your IDE. Okay, so here goes Claude. We just started Claude Code. We are in Claude Code. What we're using here is experimental, like alpha quality software. This is a preview, like you can't get access to it just automatically. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just tell it what I just told you. I'm gonna tell Claude what I told you. Okay, so in my game code base, we have an AWS slash G-Cloud type administrative script called Wyvern, named after the game. It's in the scripts directory in the server module. It's in Ruby. It's about 3,500 lines of code. We want to port it to Kotlin. I'd like to do it over in the probably in the tools module. And then I need a Gradle build target that like launches it. Great. It doesn't know what Gradle is. Okay, check this out. Problem number one with Claude Code. You can't even do command line editing. You got a backspace if you mess something up. It's absolutely primitive. Oh, and it's still taking my voice input too. Okay. The Gradle. We're going to port it to, sorry, I already did that. Am I missing anything else from the description? I'm forgetting being here.
Can I propose that we give it a hint and say the lesson last time was like maybe the first thing to do is see if we can get a command line into the Gradle build script?
Last time we tried this, we had difficulty getting the Gradle build script target to run with the correct command line arguments, period. Let's make sure that we can validate that works before we continue with the rest of the architecture.
Oh,
Period. We'd like to go with an object-oriented approach where each major modular function, such as the sandbox, gets its own class, and all of the infrastructure from the script, such as manipulating servers, goes into a helper class of some sort. It could be an abstract superclass, or it could be a delegate class. All right, let's go from there.
oh wait, can we ask it to generate a plan first? Let's so we can analyze it together.
Oh, now it's gonna do it for us.
Oh God,
Ain't no plan. No.
no.
I'm betting you that we're gonna have a completed version of this thing within 5 minutes. That's my bet.
Okay, just to explain my reasoning, I did something like this earlier this week where I asked for a plan first. That was actually useful to see. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the reality is, look here. When I joked that it prompts you every 8 seconds to run stupid commands, make directory, even you just asked it to make a new module. This is where you just hit escape and tell it the extra info that you needed. So, and I don't, that's why I don't over-index on the initial prompt, because I know it's going to be a little bit of a conversation anyway.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of a couple of days to realize escape. You can actually give it more information and then just say, let's go. And
Yeah, no, it's just, oh, sorry, what did you want to hear? Okay, yeah, sure. And then it keeps going. Unless you hit /clear.
oh yeah, no, that was really bad.
Don't do that. So
I did that and I quit for the day.
So Claude Code here, by the way, so let's talk to our audience about what's happening here. First of all, I'm coding. It's a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. Coding is fun when you can just chat with your friends. Oh, look at all the code I just wrote. Okay. Do you want to make this edit to the Wyvern CLI.kt? Yes. And don't ask again. Okay, my coding is proceeding. So first of all, now if anybody's watching this after reading my tweet about my dream about Claude Code, now you understand why I think I can do more than one of these at a time and why I could potentially have 100 of them running at once, because they spend a lot of time thinking and charging you, right? That's what they're doing right now, is racking up. Like they should actually have a little meter that shows pennies like going by, right? You can blast through $5 an hour with this thing. It's just burning tokens. It's brute forcing, but it's beautiful. So yeah, as far as the plan goes, like what I do, like if I thought that there was like an issue with the plan, if it was like a really serious, for example, this is just one file that's going to split into multiple files. It doesn't require a bunch of changes across the rest of the code base, probably, right? So like for this, no big deal, use your plan, right? But Gene's brought up a very good point, which is if you think that it's going to be touching a lot of files and you think that there's a potentially different ways to do it and you want to have a discussion with it, absolutely. Claude Code will talk your ear off about plans, right? Like it is a chat interface, but it's a lot more fun to just make it work.
Steve, someone wrote a tweet that I just loved. He said, when you wake up or when you look up and all around you is an AI created horror. It was, I've had that feeling where kind of its changes leaked into a whole bunch of places where I definitely did not want it to be making changes. So I assume that you're being vigilant about what changes are being made.
Oh yeah, I know my code really well. So this is one of those situations, right, where we would strongly recommend reading all this code. I actually am reading all this code as we talk, kind of like eyeballing it. And it's because I've been working on this code base for 30 years. I started it in 1995. So of course this is an exception, right? Like I can vibe code and still know that it's actually working as solid engineering. Wow, this is fancy. It made more handlers than I thought. Very cool. I guess I have a lot of modules. So as you can see, oh, look, okay, it's asked me a question. Can I run chmod? Okay, that's one you probably want to be careful with. So did you folks hear that Anthropic's Claude Code had a bug that bricked machines?
No.
Yeah, so seriously, it's in the news. There's all the news about it 2 days ago. And it's because of this that you're looking at on my screen. Chmod, can I change the permissions of this random file on your hard disk? If I just said yeah, and it was some critical file for booting, then my Apple wouldn't be able to restore my computer.
Whoa.
I'm gonna say yes and don't ask again for Chmod in Wyvern, but make sure you're careful when you grant it permissions. I wonder how big this team is. This is such an amazing piece of software. Of course, we're going to see a billion of these in a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's called Wyvern for Kotlin Wyvern. That's clever. Do you want to proceed? Yeah, I don't know what this means, but sure.
Oh, wow.
Proceed with what? So it thinks it's done. Not done. I can see that it didn't implement all of the modules. I think it just implemented the sandbox as the test, which is funny. That's what Claude chose to do last time. Although maybe it's just because it's the first module in the script. Okay, so now, okay, folks, now I know you're all like thinking, well,
Actually, Steve, before you, I hate to, so I'm just reading about the GitHub issue that was filed against Claude Code. Command bricked my system. It did a sudo chown recursive on all of /user. Wow. So,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right, sorry.
yeah.
Over to you. Over to you.
No, that's scary. Look, come on, we've been talking about this since before these came out. We knew that when agents come out, they would have the potential to do as much damage as an angry intern. And anyway, so where we're at here is it's trying its stuff out. It's okay, I'm going to try my stuff. So what Claude does in a loop, Claude Code, is it attempts things and then it runs tools and it looks at their output and it says, oh, look, the build failed.
Oh my
Well,
God. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh my, it's running it. It's running.
it already ran it. We're way past it. Okay, so it ran the build and it says there seems to be an issue with the way the Gradle task is being invoked. Funny about that's what Gene and I actually told it to look at. And it says, let's fix it. And look at this, it's screwing around with command line args. This is actually where we got stuck last time, right? Because we just kept going in a big loop. That's what happens with chat-oriented programming, with vibe coding. But with Claude Code, look, it can get stuck in a loop and it may get stuck in a loop here. It can, okay? And when it does, you have to hit escape and go in there and get it out of. It's like a Roomba that just got stuck in your bathroom, and you got to pick it up and move it out. But boy, when it's most of the time, it's like a Roomba that's just really thorough and climbs the walls too.
Hey, Steve, I gotta tell you, this was when I saw this last week, and it actually ran my closure program and gave it like it actually ran its own code in closure using a CLJ command. That blew me away. It was just, my mind blew up in terms of the possibilities. It's just so great.
Yeah, it's wild. It will write programs, throwaway programs, just to
Right.
validate things. Yeah. And strangely, it chose to use Clojure in your case because you had a Clojure project. So it felt, I'm going to write, although interestingly, I find it usually uses Python when it's just when it runs a quick throwaway. Curious to know why it chose Clojure.
I think it was to access a specific function that it wrote, which was just awesome.
That's so smart. Okay, so in other words, could like it just runtime link against the stuff it was trying to validate, and then
Yep.
yeah. And then did it throw the program away at the end? Were you paying attention?
It's actually using CLG minus E. So the program was just in the command line.
In the command line, yeah. Look at this. Great. Our Kotlin implementation is working correctly. Here's a summary of what we've accomplished together. We've created a Kotlin port of the command line tool with an object-oriented approach. We've structured it to use a main Wyvern CLI class for dispatching and a config object for your constants, command handler with a base command handler implementation, and individual command handlers. Sounds good to me. The architecture allows for easy expansion. It's well structured. Look at this. It's just bragging about itself at this point. Okay, so I don't believe it because first of all, I didn't see the implementations for all of the other sandbox commands go by. So let's.
And I'd like to see it run from the command line. This is really exciting, Steve. I was a little bit skeptical. Not skeptical. I was.
Even I'm skeptical about where it's at right now. I'm sure we'll get there, but I don't know, where it is right now. It's really hard to say. Okay, there is a Wyvern. I'm gonna show you guys a trick. Here I'm in Claude Sonnet inside of Emacs, and I'm gonna just ask it really quick. How do I switch all my open files to another Git branch? Because I'm not really a Git guy because I used Mercurial because I was stupid. And so now it's going to tell me how to do it and blah blah blah. But I just said I didn't have to do it. So we're going to call
Hey, Steve, just to riff with you, I actually do that now inside of Claude.
Oh yeah, you're right. Please. I'm so dumb. I'm dumb. See, this is the thing. This is why we're writing the book. Because even as experienced as we are, like we still fall back to our old ways. It's just, it's so habitual.
For me, I never
Please put
knew.
this on a branch for me called Kotlin Port, not called Kotlin Port. Yeah, now it's going to ask me. Now it's going to ask me though, right, for something that I've dreaded doing, which is giving it Git permissions, right? But I'm just going to say yes, not yes
This is
forever.
once, right?
I like what Anthropic did here with the security. I think they need to fine tune it a little bit.
Oh wait, no. Do you want to do this? Oh, I guess.
I'm not sure why there's a space. Oh yeah, no, sorry. There's a space because it's adding two files. It looks great. It seems like the git ignored file is excluding the Kotlin directory. How long would it have taken me to find that? Probably half an hour going, why is it not finding my new files? And then finally it's, oh yeah, I put it in git ignore. It found it right away. Git commit, here's my commit message. Ported our Wyvern. Come on, it did not. Okay, but let's try it. And did you notice it gave us an option? No, and tell Claude what to do differently. Look at this. So it created all the handlers, but are they real? Here, let's go into IntelliJ where we can pull this up quickly. So another thing to know is that your skills as an engineer haven't gone away. They're still really important, and you will use your IDE to validate all of Claude's work, right? We're gonna go, what was it called? Gradle handler. It was. Oh my God, it wrote the whole thing. Okay, so the significance of what I just said is that it actually appears to have, okay, no, it only made a few of the handlers. See? It only made a few of the handlers. And I think it's because, remember, I said, hey, let's test and make sure it works first. Yeah, which is great, right? It would have sucked if it built all the handlers out and then they didn't work and they had to be redone because that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Rework is expensive with Claude Code, right? So I'm glad that it didn't do all of them. And next time I'm going to take Gene's advice, and just in case on a big thing like this, just in case I don't want it burning $20 on a wrong path. I'm gonna have it walk me through the plan before it executes next time.
So Steve, I'm dying to know if you can actually run something.
Yeah. Okay. So let's try it. How do I run it? I mean, like I was gonna go lip, but then I was like, okay, so to run the Kotlin version, use the Wyvern script that we created. Okay. And it's in the top level, and you say dash help. Okay.
Very exciting.
It worked. Oh my God, it's the same. Okay, so if I run side by side here, let's look, right, with the old one and the new one. So we
Hey,
can say,
Steve,
huh?
like I hear like JVM programs start up really slow, but that doesn't seem slow.
Oh, yeah, let's try it again. Let's see. Yeah, I was worried about that. It's a little slow. Did you see it ran a Gradle build at the beginning, right here? The Gradle build very quickly, probably in just a few hundred milliseconds, 800 or so, maybe figured out that everything didn't need to be rebuilt. But that's definitely a step that wouldn't happen in like an interpreted language.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so what it means is that you'll never run an outdated version of it where you accidentally made a change and forgot to compile it or whatever. So I like this approach in general, even though it's a couple hundred milliseconds slower. So let's try, I'm just going to try, so let's say Wyvern sandbox help. That's my Ruby one. Works great. Oh wait, sorry, that's Wyvern, not KY. KY,
That's really
got to put it in my path. Okay, sorry. So it works, but okay, it gave me the sandbox help. So I'm gonna just say Wyvern sandbox. What is it gonna be? What are the commands? Sandbox SSH. See if I can get into it. Oh, it probably didn't make the SSH handler. Yeah. Oh, but it didn't specify the zone flag. Okay, so let's try it. Can you try running one of the commands? Like sandbox SSH and see if it works. So this is another thing, right? Is if you ever break both of your hands in a motorcycle accident and you got 6 weeks where you can only code by talking, like you can still do it. right? Because I'm literally telling it to just do my work for me now, right? Can you try? See, and it's not working, and so now it's honking. You see this, Gene? You noticed all the
Yeah, yeah.
little productivity verbs they chose. I think it's pretty cool. And so now it knows. Ooh, we messed up. Do you want to proceed? Yes. And do ask again.
And
Isn't
see,
this
well,
going so much better than our last session, Gene?
yeah.
The one
If
where
you did that with
I was
it,
typing like this, and I was switching windows. Do you remember?
yeah.
Dude, we should pull up some footage from our session before. Absolutely. Just so that people can see the difference before and after. Do you
Do you
want
have your
to
bell
good?
turned on? Meaning, did you have it set for on mine? I had to change the configuration setting so that it would beep at me when it was waiting for a keystroke.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I'll ask it. Give me a sec. Here, actually, I'm just gonna do it now. How do I make you beep when you're right when you're waiting for my input?
I think it's slash config.
We got a Houdini the next one. We got literally tie our fingers together. Wear mitts. Programming with mitts, oven mitts. Do we want to get out of the script? Yeah.
Really? Actually, it is smart. One of my problems when I'm writing my blog post of what I did on my program is it's so difficult to log. I don't have a log of what it did and my prompts. And so I'm actually using Claude to,
Gene, it completely misunderstood my instructions, but it did something really cool.
oh my gosh.
You see what it did?
That's hilarious.
Okay, thank you, Claude Code, for the audio alert when my job finishes. I'm gonna like that. But actually can let's revert. Let me just talk.
Yeah.
Let's revert that change.
Oh, revert the bell.
Period.
No, because you also added
I
it was
actually meant how do I make Claude Code beep when it's waiting for user input? What configuration change do I need to make?
I'm really nervous that revert that change might revert more than what you wanted.
Let's see what Claude does. So Claude should hopefully undo the changes that it made. Yeah. I misunderstood your question. The beep isn't something you wanted in. It's not something you configure in Claude Code directly. You would need a feature in the interface that they would implement. So how did you get it done? Did you use like a script or something?
Okay, you gotta
How
turn
did
off
you?
transcription. Yeah, you gotta go config or slash config. Slash config.
Don't tell me Claude Code lied to me. Oh God.
Notifications.
The Claude Code's really good at understanding, but it's not very self-reflective.
Yep. Yep. There you go. That's helpful.
Is it done? Yeah. Okay, okay. Let's continue. Did it fix the sandbox SSH thing? Let me see. It worked. I'm in.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Wow.
actually, Steve, that control G, I think that's your bell. Is that right?
Yeah, control. That was the bell. You're right. It emitted the visual beep when it was done. So actually, I have that disabled, and it could actually beep when it saw that. So there's nothing. Okay, let's
Wow.
continue with the other commands.
Hey, yeah, Steve, could we do a timeout here? Let it keep going. But what's your plan to like make sure it actually converts everything? Ideally,
Here's
you'd
what
have
I'm going to
a
do.
list.
Here's what I'm going to do. This thing had 0 tests. Guess how many it's going to have when we're done.
Nice.
This is what you would call, I would say, vibe coding for engineers. Yeah. We are definitely vibe coding, are we not? We're vibe
100%.
coding for sure. Vibe coding by definition is okay, look, I'm doing a little more than vibe coding. I'm doing vibe coding plus because it's my code. And when I see what it's doing, I can in a second understand whether it's doing the right thing or not. But when I'm in a new code base, when I'm working with a language that I don't know or whatever, I'm 100% vibe coding. I'm just like, I believe you, I trust you, but we're going to verify. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's pretty awesome. So like, what's the just take it down one more level? How are you going to have a coverage test that
shit. For those of you learning to use Claude Code, what I should have done was run compact. which I'm going to do right now. And what it does is it summarizes the conversation and the next steps and so on, and then you can just keep going. So what it did was it's filling up the context window, which if you remember is like 500K now. It's really large. So your conversations can get really long, but it costs you a lot of money if you let it run. In other words, yeah, I should have compacted before I even started asking little questions like how do I do this and how do I do that? Because remember, the entire conversation and all of the tool output and everything, hundreds and hundreds of K of tokens is being sent along with every teeny little question you ask.
Oh, I never really thought about that. Hey, Steve, I gotta tell you, that's really interesting note,
Is
and I
it
put this in the
done?
Slack message.
Dude,
Um,
it finished while we were talking.
Steve, I gotta make this point though, is I actually can you imagine it's doing this big thing for me and I'm down at 3% context remaining, 2%, 1%, and I'm sweating bullets because if it runs out of context, it will stop working.
Yeah. I don't know yet. Have you run into that yet?
Yeah.
What happens when
No, I
you
was
go
down
big?
to 2% and it finished, and then I hit compact.
Yeah,
And
I've gotten down to pretty low single digits, but I'm scared too.
and then I hit clear, and then it forgot everything, and then it was like that's a
Yeah,
call center problem. You're talking to a new customer service agent, and I just quit. I couldn't take it. It was like
dude, yeah, clear is misnamed. Clear should be called new chat slash
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's
And
what
there's no confirmation.
although look, like right now it's super dangerous because they don't save the chats as far as I can tell. They don't save the sessions. But if they did, it wouldn't be that catastrophic.
Steve, I'm actually doing a command C and saving it to a file and then passing it to Claude to try to reconstruct what I did those 2 days.
Yeah.
I would love it to save a log.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The Anthropic product team is like really cool. And they actually asked if you and I had any ideas. So let's come back to him and let's tell him, hey, history. That's like probably the number one thing because it's such a bummer to lose a conversation. I don't know. I don't know. Right. So anyway, just to fill people in on where we're at with our vibe coding session, we have not only apparently finished the entire project in how long has it been so far? What's our timer say, Gene?
25, 26 minutes.
26 minutes, okay, which is longer than I estimated, but it did do the whole thing. Like it ported, I don't know, let's look. That's not it. So it's still cranking away. I don't know. Oh, stub handlers. Oh, I see. Maybe it didn't finish the whole project. Okay. Sorry, I'm just fumbling around here, trying to understand what it did. It still has stubs for a bunch of my handlers. So it didn't finish the whole project in 25 minutes, and it didn't finish it in 5 minutes either. So this is interesting, right? For one thing, it means that my intuitions about what it can accomplish in 5 minutes or 20 minutes are off, right? It takes longer than you expect, I guess. This is not a
Steve,
very
I
big
mean,
project.
is it true that basically there's a handler for everything and there's this die? Some of them are just stubbed out with die, not implemented yet. Is that true?
Yes, what's happening right now is that it did stub out all of the handlers that it's going to need to implement.
That's amazing.
I told it, let's implement the rest of the commands. And it did something, but it didn't actually implement them. But now it's right. But I didn't see that it hadn't implemented them. So now it's writing tests. But that doesn't really matter. That's just TDD, right? Like, because now I can look at the test and say, is this the functionality that the original script had? Or I can just make it do it.
So, what gives you confidence that the only evidence that we have that it's doing a good job is that you were able to log into your sandbox, which was really cool.
Yeah.
What's
You know
how do
what?
you feel good about what's happening right now?
You know what? I'm glad you asked that, Kay, because
Oh,
I'm
and can I add one more thing? I mean,
yeah.
instead of doing the whole thing all at once, wouldn't you rather have it do one at a time and get some verification that
I did. I got the SSH in. That's one of the harder ones,
ooh,
right? I just happen to know that was that I thought the SSH command was actually the least likely to succeed, and it succeeded. So that was enough for me to go. It's good enough. Usually, you would probably do exactly what you said, right? You would be like, okay, let's get it perfectly working for one instance, check it in. Okay, now let's build out the rest of them. As you can see, it's making tests. The tests are failing. It's making changes. It's probably gonna cost me. How much money do you think how much money per hour do you think it run if it's just running nonstop? Do you know?
peak. I don't know. I think $25 an hour. I think that's a guess.
20, yeah, 25. I think we $30 an hour was what we no, $30 a day was what we came up with. 25 an hour, my God.
You're right. You're right. I've spent $30 in a day, but it wasn't this, right? There was a lot of gene thinking, gene typing.
Yeah, this is like work. So this could potentially, I could see this getting to $10 an hour, maybe. We'll see. It will tell us, right? And in the future, these tools will actually have a meter that's just running like a taxi cab. Yeah. So anyway, what I was going to say was I had this really stimulating conversation with a bunch of tech executives and senior leaders at a dinner in Seattle a couple days ago, and a guy I was talking to, his name is Steve. He goes by Loud Steve. You can look him up. He's at Chegg. Really interesting guy. He took a funny stance that I think was really related to your question of yes, I would like you to focus on fixing a specific test class first. It just asked, would you like me to focus on fixing one test class to demonstrate a working approach? Just what you
Hey,
asked.
give us another 30 minutes, Steve. This is great. 30 minutes down.
Okay, 30 more minutes. So far, in our 30 minutes, we've gotten what apparently be full implementations of 4 or 5 of my command handlers, and we've got stubs for another 15 of them or so. And it's busy implementing the tests for all of them. So even before the implementations are done, and it's drilling down on a particular test to make sure that we've got an end-to-end working. And it just offered to do all that. So anyway, in my conversation with Steve, he said, I don't think unit tests are in the future. I think unit tests are going to go away and it's all going to be integration tests. And we were all like, no, like everybody at the table, 15 people, we were like, what? You don't just get rid of unit tests. And he's, why do you care? If eventually the code all disappears under some layer, just like hardware today, like assembly language, and it's working, think of it like you're a developer, you use black boxes all the time. You use libraries or black boxes, right? You can look inside of them, but you don't want to. You prefer for them to be a black box. That's how you can be a productive engineer. That's how you can build big things. It's having a lot of the work done for you and sharing and reuse. So his point was this thing right here is building black boxes for us. We're looking inside them only because we don't trust it yet. But as soon as we get to the point, and how do we build the trust? And then that takes us full circle to Gene's question, is how do you trust that this thing is building what you want?
And you have to hit
He's
enter
asking
here.
me RM-RF. Do you want to proceed? I
Oh,
just gotta have to pause. Whenever it says RM-RF, do you want to proceed? You have to stop everything. Remove specified test files without prompting. So it's removing a bunch of tests. And why is that? I just want to ask. Why are we removing these? And it shouldn't be doing a dash R also. That's a poor, you know what? That's feedback for Anthropic. That was a really poor choice on Claude Code's part. You see what's going on here? It said, I'm gonna remove 4 test files right here. I'm gonna use rm-rf to remove these 4 test files that are all in the same directory. That's really poor choice on, like it's an unsafe, a risky choice on Claude Code's part. This is why you need to keep a close eye on it. And I really have been. Don't use -rf for files in the same directory.
oh, maybe put that in your claude.md. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, you can actually tell it. So I've never done this before. I think there's a command for it. How can escape? How, please update my quad.md to what was it again?
Not use minus RM minus RF. Nice.
I guess that's right. I mean, assuming it will interpret what I mean and put something better into the actual MD file. Let's see what it put. They put shell command safety, avoid using RMF when deleting files for this.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was what I was trying to say. And it okay, telnet handler. Oh, time to compact. We're gonna look back at this and be like, remember when we had to run compact? Come on, man. Why don't you just like you should be able to like the simplest thing is just set a threshold and have it automatically compact as soon as it goes below that threshold at the earliest convenience, shouldn't it?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't really. So you think that compact, if you don't compact, basically it's sending that to everything to Claude, to the API each time. That's what you think.
Yeah.
That's the way context works. Yeah, interesting.
This is a really difficult thing for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. It's something that I've really been trying to get across in the book, trying to find an analogy for it. It's almost like if you imagine there's a mine and you've got a dump truck and you're like moving like piles of dirt to and from the mine, you don't realize that every single time you change a pebble, you're moving the entire dump truck full of dirt back to the mine. It feels light, but it's not. And
That's
so
funny.
this is, yeah, I don't know. I don't know a good analogy for it.
No, it's great.
What would you like to
It's
learn?
funny. We've been working on this book for months, and it just never occurred to me that has to be happening. I'm a little embarrassed, but yeah, it's
This is why we have I originally had the remote call center analogy in the book
yep.
for that's the specific misconception that addresses, which is a remote call center with no customer database. When you call them up, you're talking to a brilliant scientist who can help you with everything instantly, but they have no idea who you are. Okay. And you're providing them with the entire conversation, right? When you actually it's not super accurate, is it? Because it doesn't save the conversation in memory on the remote end.
Yeah,
You're literally, in other words, it's the remote call center, but you have to hang up every time you talk to them.
yeah. I think this
That's
should go in
it.
the book is that even Claude is following the same principles, right? Context is you're shoving all the context in every interaction.
It's like you're calling it up and asking it a question, okay? And the log of it is happening on your computer. And then as soon as it's done, you hang up. It
That's right.
doesn't remember you. It has no memory. All the memory is on your side, and you have to pass it back each time. Gene, if you can think of a way, man, a metaphor or something, some analogy that we can use to help people understand a real world, everyday like situation where we run into that, right? The closest one I can think of is the old joke about the quadratic behavior of the guy that's painting the street and like the first day he paints like 5 miles and everybody's so proud of him because he's walking along with a paint can. And the second day he paints 2 miles and the third day he paints half mile and they're asking him why his performance is falling off. And he says the can keeps getting farther away, right? So yeah, so I don't know. How do we explain to people that like
I think you just
the
did, but I
longer
think
your conversation goes, the more you're handing it each time, the more money you're spending.
as when you're in part two, just make sure that I think you should say in Claude the same principles are at work, right? Context is being sent, and when you're doing compact, you're shrinking that context. The basics are still the same.
Yeah, and you know what? Think about it, right? Let's think about the world economic implications of what we just said, shall we?
Please,
The implications to the GDP, right? The gross domestic product of big first world countries. All right, well established first world's actually not accurate anymore. Here's what's going to happen, right? Because of the way these things work, you're sending longer and longer conversations. Each turn, it's longer and longer, and you're spending more and more tokens. And so what happens is, it's also running tool outputs. Claude Code is running tool outputs, which you didn't normally use to send unless you wanted it to look at the tool output. If you ran a build to verify it, you were verifying it, not Anthropic. Okay, but now all of your tool output, which is voluminous, right? Like it can be huge. We're going to test everything. Yeah, don't ask me if you can test. Why is it asking me if it can run test?
that's
This is
awesome.
bad. This is just a bug. Okay,
Oh,
so
come on. It should always ask the first time.
whether it can run the test that it just wrote?
This is really exciting.
Okay, so back to economics. It's sending all these tokens over and over and over again through brute force, and it's racking up dollars to the tune of $30 a day, right? Or more, probably if we continue to push it this hard. It could be $50 a day or $80 a day if you're working 8 hours a day. Now imagine running 100 of those in parallel. Now you're spending $8,000 a day. That's way more than an engineer's salary. Okay, that's several engineers. Now you're getting 100 and you're close to 100 engineers of work out of them. This is working faster than an engineer. At $30 a day or even an hour, it's faster than an engineer, right? Look how fast it's coding. But man, companies cannot afford to have their devs become more productive by doubling the amount of money that they're costing. Like they didn't budget for it. It's April, it's March right now. Everybody just finished their budget planning and nobody's ready for a mid-year shift. So this conceptual error that people have about how these conversations work and how they're continuing to send the original context and everything back every single time is confusing people about how much money is actually being spent here. And I don't think people are ready for it.
That's crazy. Yeah, just to replicate your math, if you spend $800 a day times 5 times 52, That's $208,000 a year. So that's basically on par with the engineer's salary.
It's a principal, yeah, it's a senior principal engineer.
Yeah. That's
now you're getting, even if you say each of these is only 30% as productive as a human engineer, which I would dispute. I think they're as productive. It's blocked on IO. The only thing that's blocked on is IO. So in other words, it's working as fast as you could work. And I would argue that these things, I'm getting, if I were running 100 of these, I would getting at least 80. I'm keeping their queues full like we're doing here, like they're actually busy and not waiting and idling. Then you're getting 80 engineers worth of value out of them for the price of one really expensive engineer.
Hey, Steve, tell me that story. I mean, I think it's relevant here. Tell a story about, I had mentioned that you couldn't sleep that night, and we put that in the book. Right?
Yeah, I hope people are seeing this and just look, we'll prove it to you at the end. It'll all work and it'll all be amazing. Right now it's doing graph. Oh, graph. I completely forgot about that command. I wrote quite the dumping ground. Graph actually builds the driving directions graph in the game. We have about 30,000 maps. I think about 6,000 are easily reachable. And like custom built areas that you can visit, we have about 6,000 of them. And they all have teleporters between them. And if you need directions on a mission or something, like I needed like a graph search to give people a pathfinding. So I used Dijkstra implementation in a black box library that was implemented by a friend of mine from Google. And so building the graph is something that you have to do periodically when we release the game, and this handler handles it for you. So I'm sorry, I'm just really excited that it's doing that. Like when I first did, this is the kind of thing I meant when I said it keeps doing stuff. Okay. It's been thinking for 210 seconds, but it's still cranking out just in this last round. But it's still cranking out code. It's still making my handlers. It's still making tests. I was addicted to this. How could you not have it continue to do work for you? Now you got me ranting, Gene. I'm starting to get
No, keep going. This is exciting.
Because come on, it's doing for me with very low effort on my part, the things that I was going to have to do myself. And I wouldn't be able to, man. As I told you, Gene, at my age, man, I'm 56. The guys in my graduating class, we all tell each other we only have so many 5-year projects left. And we got to be real selective about what we work on. And that all just went out the window last weekend. When I first used Claude Code, I was like, holy crap, I can do anything I want from now on. Like I can be as ambitious as I want, and I can do it alone, and it'll be fun. And well, this sounds really familiar, doesn't it, Gene? Why does that remind
me? Right. Steve is referring to FAFO, faster, alone, more ambitious, fun, and more options.
FAFO, yeah, FAFO, and this was the accidental acronym. It was truly accidental. We found when we came up with the 5. Actually, Gene himself came up with these dimensions. He insisted we have dimensions, and he came up with faster and more ambitious, alone, fun, and which I love that he included that. And there we go, right there. It was waiting on a human, a stupid human that was talking and not paying attention to it. This is important.
What is git check ignore?
It was a command I've never heard of before, but apparently it's the thing that figures out that you've got something in your file tree that's being ignored by Git.
Cool.
Yeah. Didn't we need that 15 years ago? I wonder when they added it.
That's interesting. Steve, you also said when it came to this project, you had so many aspirations, so many goals, 35 years of aspirations. It felt like pushing a dead elephant, and now that's changed.
Yeah, it was like pushing a dead elephant down the street. I was tired. And my poor team, they're tired too. They're troopers, right? Still got people working on it. But now I literally like on the side, just by paying money and having somebody babysit this thing, I can have it basically push the elephant for me. It's an elephant pusher. It's strong. There's something that comes across here that maybe it'll come across as you watch the video. Claude Code is very persistent. Have you noticed? It's very polite and it will ask you permission for doing stuff that mutates state on your disk, but it'll also ask you permission for stuff that doesn't. But
wait,
still,
wait, I think we're at a pausing point here. Where are we now?
Oh my God. It should have beeped at me. Why didn't it beep at me? I thought we configured it too. Not going to care. All tests are passing. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Let's run one of the commands that talks to, I don't know, Redis. So tell me what I did wrong there with that last query.
I don't know. Looks good to me.
I typed it.
Oh, nah, you know what? Sometimes.
Man, voice dictation's right there. I just haven't trained myself. Wyvern Redis starts or manages it. Yeah, sure. I wonder if it can fix the Ruby. Why is it running Wyvern? Wait, no, no, wait. Why
Wow.
aren't we running Wyvern? You're absolutely right. Okay, so as smart as Cloud Code is, it's just like a person. It can be a total dumbass sometimes. It just wrote a script called Wyvern, and I said, okay, let's test it, and ran the old script. And then I explained it, and I said, oh, yeah, sorry.
You're
Okay,
killing me. Hit enter.
I'm killing you. It won't work. But the beauty is it'll fix it. And also, I'm going to go make it fix that MySQL problem.
Oh yeah.
Now we're running the Kotlin. It's showing the stub error message. Okay. Oh, we haven't implemented the Redis handler. Okay, then can we implement the Redis handler?
And SQL handler, MySQL. That's the high payoff one.
Yeah, you're right. MySQL is a high payoff. The thing that I'm failing to understand here, and this is clearly a bug in Cloud Code, is I've told it twice now, implement all of those fucking commands, and it didn't do them. Now, here's why I think it didn't do them. Yeah. Why? Right here, this is a major Cloud Code bug. Anthropic, hello, PMs, Cloud Code team. Whenever you have a pipe and you have two commands or more that are non-mutating, but you pipe them together, you don't give me an option to just say, just do it.
Ah, I ran into
Continue to
that.
do it. Okay. Okay, so now it's doing it. My hypothesis as to why it ignored me both of those times, it's related to a thing we noticed back in the chop days, okay, which is that even in the GPT 3.5 days, you'd be like, hey, GPT 3.5, write this big program for me. And it would write a quarter of it and go, dot, as a comment, the rest of the exercise is left to the reader. Remember those days? And you're like, smart ass. But what it's really doing was it's making sure it doesn't overflow its output context window. Yeah. Now, Claude Code doesn't really have that exact same problem. It has an output context window limitation, but I think there's something going on that I was just about to tell you earlier that Claude Code is really strong. It has this sort of, it's almost like if you get like a new Dyson vacuum cleaner and it's like way stronger than a regular vacuum cleaner, and you're like, wow, this thing is strong, right? There's a strength to Claude Code that you don't find in other coding assistants, and a resilience, it pushes. Look what it's doing. It's pushing. And yet, for some reason, it's refusing to push and make all 15 stub implementations.
Steve, I have a proposal.
Okay.
I think you should have it write the test suite first. Maybe it's just a make file that runs every one of them.
I did. It wrote the test, as far as I know, I think it wrote stub tests for the MySQLs.
Oh, we got it. Oh, and that's in Kotlin.
Yeah, no, so it's got tests now. We have to probably flesh out the tests for MySQL shortly, but it's doing the, wait, look, oh, it's removing, look, it removed the stubs. So it's doing something.
But then I think that the prompt request is keep working until all the tests pass.
Maybe, or yeah, maybe. In any case, I think just to make sure that we get closure on this, let's push it on making sure that we have a working subcommand for MySQL
Yeah.
and a test for it, and then
So you got
we can
MySQL, Redis, and Sandbox.
Mhm. And then the other ones, it should just be able to grind through them, you know. It's a really interesting experience. In terms of like workshops, it's interesting. This is not a total slam dunk in the sense that this is not like using bolt.io. Is it what Bolt? Yeah, Bolt, right?
Bolt.new.
Bolt.new. They let you build apps like this, right? You prompt it and it goes and builds an app. You don't see the code. Maybe you do.
Yep, it has an ID.
You see, does it? Yeah. So there's some similarities, right? But this one is engineering work, right? You're in there with it. I don't know to what extent Bolt actually gives you that level of control. Does it?
My experience with it is, I think we are having this discussion before, is that when we were working with Christine, we are trying to figure out what would be a useful exercise. And so we could say, write something in Bolt.new, write a wedding planner, wedding registration, gift registry app. The problem, and that'll be really easy to do, but it doesn't really represent most people's, we believe it doesn't represent the problems that we want to enable people to solve, which is like situated programs that talk to other programs. Yeah, it actually can, like Bolt.new, Lovable. I haven't used Lovable, but you're building apps that are completely self-contained.
Got it. Yeah. So it's almost like a WordPress plus or something. Okay, that makes sense because this, even though
Which is, I don't want to slam it, and it's probably an overstatement. But yeah, like this is definitely more general, right? This is,
let's make no mistake, like apps like WordPress and Bolt are incredibly valuable, right? They're not this. And oh, so now it's starting the database. Compact.
Wait, oh, this is starting up a MySQL database?
Yeah. Yeah, it's compacting right now. Can you imagine what this is going to be like when all these little paper cuts are solved? Think about it. For starters, okay, let's predict. For starters, I bet you within a month, maybe less, we're going to see a coding agent like this. Okay, I'm going to pause because it says it's done. Okay, I'm just going to just see if any of this
Yeah,
stuff actually works. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we got some services. They're not all implemented yet, but let's alias. That works. Mhm. So, no, do this. I'm just gonna see how lame I am. All right. Sorry,
You're at
I set a
40
timer
minutes,
and it went off.
50 minutes. You're good.
We're at 50 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna try it now. KW help. And then KW send Redis. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna use my own script. I can build it, start it, kill it, list it. This is really annoying. I'm gonna tell Claude to shut Gradle up. Can you make it so that it doesn't do this every time I run the Wyvern script and then just show it some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
By the way, you can't, this is not multimodal. You can't paste.
Keep going. Like we don't need to wait for it to do it. Let's keep running it.
It'll make it a lot easier to follow if we let it do it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, done. Okay,
Okay, that
so
was
yeah, it didn't take long.
geez.
Look, see, it was so much better. Oh yeah, we got to turn the beep off when it's running in dumb Emacs term mode. Okay, so sorry, I'm just being a perfectionist here.
No, that's good.
There's my Wyvern Redis instance running at an IP address that I probably shouldn't be showing everybody. It doesn't matter, have at it. If you care enough about my game to hack it, then you're my friend. Let's SSH in. I don't know if I can SSH actually. Under specified resource, specify the zone flag. Aha, okay. Redis SSH is missing the flag. But come on, man. Okay, let's try the database one now. This is we're in the very long tail of fixing little details and stuff. It works, right? It had the zone commander, the parameter, blah blah blah. Did it update the test? Yeah. Okay, so let's try it again. It
No way.
worked.
Wow.
Now I'm in my Redis. I don't even know how do you run, what are the commands in?
Ever
Oh,
run?
I SSH'd into the way this one works is I SSH into the VM instance. It's running Redis, most likely. That's what I'm guessing. So
Okay.
anyway, let's try the database one.
Yeah. Oh, this is exciting.
No, it's not exciting, dude. This is the end of the world. This is Skynet. This is unbelievable. It's astonishing. Dude, this project would have taken me like probably working 8, 10 hours a day, probably at least 2 days for me to write it. And we did it in an hour. That's a 20x speed up, right? And that's 20x speed up with primitive interfaces and like no parallelism and all that. Dude, this is like nothing we have ever seen before. Okay, let's try it. KW, what is it? DB? Sorry. Oh, my alias. I lost it. Mm, Okay, I'm gonna put that in mind. I really can't wait till Claude starts doing it for me, but okay. Start, stop, dump, test, prod, shell. Okay, let's try. Why is there no test? Can't connect to Docker. That's my fault, isn't it? I wonder if Cloud Code cannot start Docker for me, to the best of my knowledge.
Really?
I don't think so. Oh, do you know? You can using the command line. I don't know if you can start Docker desktop on the Mac from the command line or if you have to use the, yeah, you can. You just run the DMG, just run it. Not the DMD, the app. Okay, it's running. Da, 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 da. Let's continue. It's running. Okay. Does it stop it?
Oh my.
Docker
Wait.
compose PS. Okay, now let's bring it back up again. Is it using my Docker compose? It is. Look, it brought it up with Docker compose. See, I have it Docker compose.
Okay.
So it figured that out. I don't know why I don't have syntax highlight. Okay, I'm not going to show people my database schemas and stuff. We're done, man. This is this.
Actually, here, no, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause the recording
Okay,
and let's just make sure that works. Hang on. I'm gonna pause.
we can
We
go.
are recording again. Yes.
All right, cool. So what we did just now is we actually did the database dump command to see that if it was actually dumping my database, and it did. So that's absolutely wonderful. And now it's just basically cleaning up some tests and stuff in the Redis handler. So yeah, what we just verified was that we finished in under an hour. Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah, a 1 hour and say 5 minutes.
Yeah, and there was 5 minutes of blabbing in there. Call it an hour, right? And it didn't finish. It still has 10 more commands to do, and that'll probably take another hour or maybe 2 or 3 hours. Who knows, right? Because all of these commands, they reach out to network resources, Redises, databases, G-Cloud, local resources. It's a pretty complicated script. So maybe it'll take a couple of hours, yeah? But I talked the entire time. Like I could have 20 of these things running. This is the future, right? How could this not be the future? Like
Yeah,
there's
Steve, we talked
literally
about
no
that. It's
better
kind
way
of
to do
limited.
this.
How much can you keep in your head? I don't know if I could keep 20 balls in the air. I could probably, I've done two and maybe three.
Look, with this, I can do two. Two is exhausting, two at once, all weekend, right? I got them going. Is that how you make balloons? You go like
Yeah.
this. And you know what? I agree with you. Right now, it's impossible to imagine doing this with. It's impossible to imagine doing this for a living, man. Look how much typing and reading and stuff we had to do. But the tools will come in and help. They'll summarize, they'll make smart decisions about when they really need to bug you. They'll give you dashboards and more visibility so that you can just pick things up at a glance where it's at. All of this within weeks to short months, right?
You're right. Hey, Steve, I'd love to go two places. One, I'd love to explore the value this created for you. It's funny. I couldn't help but notice that your old Wyvern Ruby script doesn't run. Like a couple of these commands don't run. And so instead of
On
fixing
this
that,
on this machine. They still run on my other machine, but I never got
yeah,
them working on this one. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just, but instead of fixing it, you wrote it in Kotlin inside of Gradle, and this is like a better. This is, in your words, materially better than what it was before.
Yeah, it has tests for starters. The other one didn't. It's modular. The other one wasn't. It's in a language that my team understands. The other one wasn't. And it actually has the ability to call directly into my game code now, which it didn't before. I wanted all these things for 10 years, but it never met the ROI criteria. It was always going to be like, as you can see, it's not going to be another. If it's going to take 5 hours for Claude Code, it's probably actually a week-long project for me, and I was underestimating it. But I knew in my gut that it was a week-long project-ish, and so I didn't want to do it. It wasn't worth it.
Yep.
But because of Claude Code, to your value question, man, not only has it like brought the value of, oh, I got to do the thing that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like I was able to do something that I didn't think I was going to be able to. I was able to do it 10 times better than I was going to do it by hand. So it's not just efficiency value, it's quality value also.
Yeah.
And that's I think people last night, 2 days ago at dinner, nobody had even heard of this, right? Cloud code, let alone even vibe coding. And so they don't understand. So what's going to happen is they're going to be hit with these giant bills and they're going to go, what are my engineers doing? And the answer is they're doing this, and it's bringing unbelievable value. It's bringing value that's quite measurable. You can actually show how long it would take me at so many dollars an hour to write this code because I've done this for 30 years. I can predict it. And how long the LLM's taking. And it's only blocked on IO as they get better at multi-parallelizing the IO operations and executing their planned DAGs in parallel. Man, they're not going to be blocked on anything. And dude, this is going to completely like what this means to me is that without making any other changes of plans to my life at all, I don't have to change anything at all. My game is now back on the table. It actually can go and be a thing. Like, it doesn't have to be moribund, just lay there. And to me, that's like life changing. When you work on something for 30 years, man, and it brings you that promise. Now imagine that promise multiplied by the size of a company. Imagine what they can do. It's just imagine what you can do. It's I don't have words to describe what's going on here, man, but it's truly, I guess you can say it's exciting. It's definitely exciting, but it's so much more. It's
Make
profound.
sure profound and to make sure I fully understand, it's because you've been working on this thing for 35 years and there were these things that were just out of reach. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, couldn't make the time, deferred, and now it's within reach.
That's right. It's within reach.
Actually, and you just got done with 3 of the hairiest parts of the 15 modules.
And all it's going to cost is all of the money that I have in the entire world. I'll have to mortgage my house. Seriously, look at the bug backlog on my game. I bet you at these current inference rates and efficiency, it's 100 grand just to catch up with my bug backlog, right?
But that cost will go down, right?
It'll go down, and I've put way more of that into the game by far. I probably put 500,000 into the game so far in 30 years,
Yeah,
of which
but it's
at
exciting.
least it's made at least 70% of that back. Yeah, no, it's super, super exciting, man. It's super exciting. Dude, this was a success also. It's exciting because we tried this 2 months ago and it failed terribly. It was too hard. It was just out of reach. So you can also see that Claude Code is doing things that were simply impossible for Claude. Were we using 3.7 2 months ago? When did 7.3.7 come out? A month ago, right? Yeah, so I think we were using 3.5, so that could potentially account for some of the difference there.
Less than a month ago. In fact, I know exactly when it was.
Yeah, so that means we were using Claude 3.5, and which is not as good. And maybe that was the difference because it struggled with Gradle, and this one had no problem with Gradle, you saw. But still, man, you can also see, I don't know, man, you can see it getting faster and faster. It's just wild.
What else do we need? Okay, I have one observation. I'm just really excited about the book because all these principles are still important to know. The interaction models, the fact that you are managing context, with the caveat that I can't imagine that they're going to try to make the context management more automatic. Yeah, it's just very validating for all the stuff they're writing about in the book about not just the why but the how.
100%, right? The skills that we say are important in the book, some of them are not important anymore. Like language syntax isn't important anymore, right? But most of your engineering skills are still very important, especially the higher level ones, planning and architecture and organization and communication and things like that, right?
I'll tell you,
Go
I'll tell you
ahead.
something else that surprised me is that was a pretty audacious prompt in the beginning just to convert it from Ruby to Kotlin and put it into Gradle. I thought you would need a lot more specification than that, but it really blew me away that it knew what you wanted to do. And I guess the other observation is that because you know the code base so well, even though it looked like you weren't paying attention and were talking, no, you were actually tracking everything, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. So the book covers a bunch of skills that are still relevant. That was the point that you had made. And I agree with it 100%, that skills are still relevant even in this world. You may not have seen me using them as blatantly and obviously and overtly. I was scanning the code, I was double checking the architecture in my head, I was making sure there were tests and all that engineering stuff. It's all lighter touch now, but I'm still doing it. With Chop, or well, it's now called Vibe Coding, it's a heavy touch. Like you're in there, right? And you have to, if you want to be an engineer with it, then you have to be really hands-on and everything. But and you have to use those skills like all the time as an engineer. But with this, you're still using them. You're just using them like a manager would. Remember, as a team leader and manager, like you're still using all your engineering skills, but you're using them in a slightly different way. You're using them to validate that what your delegates are doing is correct. Isn't that right, Gene?
yeah, you're still responsible for the outcomes.
You are still responsible for the very good point, Gene. I can't blame this LLM. Dude, I saw a news article yesterday that said, oh my God, right? Somebody, I forget what it was. I should have copied it, but somebody else just blamed the AI for a production bug. And you can't blame the AI. This is just a tool, right? You're the one building the code. That's why I said I wrote this code because I'm accountable for it.
Yeah, and there's actually one more thing that is definitely evident just watching this is watching you work is vibe coding is often has a connotation you turn your brain off. At no point did you turn your brain off. Yeah, you were vigilant, you're watching,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's the engineering mindset.
That's the engineering mindset. And I had time while it was working and if the tools were better about notifying me. And yeah, sorry, I was just talking to it. This is what I mean by it's addictive. Like I would find myself when I was driving to dinner on Wednesday, I was like, well, in a daydream. And you know what I was daydreaming about? And I was like, oh, wow, I was just daydreaming about Claude Code. Like literally, I was thinking to myself, I could be using Claude Code right now.
Actually,
Is that crazy?
it's fun. This is what Dr. Eric Meyer said, is that there is an addictive nature to it. You put money in like a slot machine and you get the endorphin hit of building and achieving something that you've wanted to do. Actually, there's another dimension here, Steve, I want to note is that what I've found is that it doesn't take as much effort. And I was actually, we had made this link between CHOP, chat-oriented programming, and CHOW, chat-oriented writing. And I was actually in Claude just revising a blog post where I'm trying to get my own Claude experiences documented. And it's just, it doesn't take so much effort. You're not hunched over the keyboard typing away. You can be a lot more, you're not turning the brain off, but it just requires less effort and it's more joyful, a little more fun.
Let me ask you something, Gene. I've never asked you this before, so I'm going to put you on the spot. How does this feel to you compared to when IDEs first came out?
Oh man, let me rewind. So I mean, I started programming, I guess, like in the early to mid 80s. I was at Sun Microsystems as a summer intern, and that's where I learned VI. And so I kind of poo-pooed IDEs until 1998 when I saw Visual Studio. Oh my gosh. And the fact that you had a debugger and the debugger could run inside your IDE and you could actually get variables, that was magic. I felt sorry for people using GDB. What sort of primitive caveman tool are these? That which was what I used before. How does it feel? I don't know. I just think whatever, what if VI was a 1 and IDE is like a 5 or a 10, I feel like this is like 100, 300. I don't know. It's an order of magnitude bigger.
Then, okay, but the thing is, here's part of why I think that's a funny answer. I agree with you because IDEs were really cool. But the thing is, IDEs had something that this doesn't, which was like appeal to the casual programmer. This is not a casual interface right here, I would say.
It's so interesting. When we first were, after 24 hours of using Claude, I was like, man, it's so interesting. They chose not to be an IDE. It's like it's not even a curses interface. Well, maybe it is, but it's a terminal interface. And my feeling was like, wow, they really focused on what mattered. It's just really astonishing and surprising.
I know this isn't a platform, but it's really similar to what you do with platform plays, right? Is you build an engine and then you build a product around that. And the engine usually has some really primitive interface just to prove the engine, but right for the devs. And they just launched the engine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think that it's extensible yet. Although somebody has it running in Emacs yet. I'm sad that we couldn't do Cloud Code in Emacs. Maybe we'll do another pairing session where I can do multiple Cloud Code sessions at once. We can solve 2 problems in parallel and see if Emacs actually makes it better than using multiple terminal windows. But look, the point I'm trying to make here is this is not the future. This is obviously not the future. This is not the way most developers, this is not palatable to most developers. It's going to go into your IDE, and it's not going to be Claude Code either. You're going to see cursor and obviously source graph. Look, you're going to see other people doing this, but it's going to be in color. It's going to be in your IDE. It's going to be integrated with your IDE so that you don't have to go, oh, I'm going to go over to IntelliJ and remind it where we are and then see if it thinks Claude was right. You won't have to do that because it's going to be right here. And that's going to be a game changer for everybody because once it's in your IDE, then now Joe developer can use it.
Yeah, and Steve, what I thought you were asking, the reason why I answered it in the way that I did is that even though it wasn't this is not the future, it's like a revelation.
Yeah, well put.
In fact, something happened that really shocked me. I'm doing a post on this Trello card manager that I was able to modify and get running after 2 years of not touching it. It couldn't even deploy anymore.
And why hadn't you touched it in 2 years, Gene?
Oh, because after Twitter sort of changed the way didn't let people have access to the IDE, it was like too hard. And I rebuilt this whole almost ETL pipeline to go from Twitter likes to being put into the database and being put into Trello. I built all of that in 2 days. And I couldn't get it to deploy anymore because I was getting this error that I didn't understand. So, sorry, I can't help but brag about that. But there was a shock where I now had the Trello cards from the database. And I was like, can you see the Trello library I built? And it was like up 2 directories and over. Like most IDs don't let you like get out of your project directory. It was amazing that it could reach over into a directory up 3, down 2. And browse the library and figure out how to use it. It was so cool.
It was like better than what you had envisioned.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so the IDE just most wouldn't let you do that.
This, oh my gosh. I'm excited by this story. Sorry, continue.
No, that was just I couldn't have imagined doing that inside of an IDE. It was just pretty astonishing to me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What else? Is there anything else that we should share before we conclude? By the way, Steve, congratulations. I am so happy for you. And I can't
Thank
help
you.
but
I'm
notice that
happy
you're
too.
cranking away on this while we
Yeah,
talk.
as we were chatting, you know what I was typing? MOAR.
Yeah.
And it was just because I figured, screw it, it knows what to do now. Like at this point, honestly, if I typed clear by accident, I'd just be like, just keep going. I accidentally typed clear and it would figure it out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Actually, two things. I'm a little bit nervous that you haven't checked this in. And two
Yeah.
is I'd love to know how much it cost.
Yeah, yeah. It'll tell you when you hit $5 and we haven't yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm,
Really?
It's told me when I've hit $5 before. Gives you a little yellow notifier in the bottom middle.
Hmm.
So pretty cheap, right? A couple bucks. And we went
Could
for an
we
hour.
actually pause and go cost/cost?
Watch me
God, I hate doing
37.
that.
It's gonna be $37. 11. Well, it didn't tell me.
$11. Yeah.
It must have just blown right by the sneaky. This is like when we were at El Gaucho and they said, "Can we keep pouring wine?" And we were like, "Sure." For the night, it was $1,300. Okay, yeah. So it ain't cheap. We just paid about $10 an hour, is what we did, roughly.
Seriously, money well spent, right?
My
Given
God, money
the
incredibly well spent. But again, returning to our problem is, do companies have the budget to let their engineers spend this money? Spend another, it's not just $10 an hour. Remember, once the tools get into the IDE and once you have dashboards and consoles 2 months from now, okay, by June, like you're going to have the ability to manage a fleet of these coding agents, right? You're in your favorite IDE. Dude, that's going to cost you how much? What was the back of envelope math again? As much as an engineer.
$200,000.
Once you hit the cognitive overhead of, I just can't run any more of these, I can only run about 20 at a time, your burn that your finance team is going to see is is more than your salary.
Yeah.
And so they can't afford that. And that's going to cause some real squeezes. It's going to cause some real uncomfortable discussions because your only choices are, do I find budget somehow to let my engineers do this with these coding agents? Or do I miss the boat and let my competitors get way ahead of me? That's not an easy choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't just say what you just left unsaid for maybe politic reasons, or the productivity advantages are so high, you have to figure out how to find the money to be able to spend that money. That could
Yeah.
be cuts somewhere.
It could be cut somewhere. It could be raising money. It could be like there's a right. You could go back to your board and say emergency, right? We need more money. Like let's go right now. Every company's going to have to handle this differently. A lot of it depends on the company's operating capital and how much buffer they have. Companies with deep pockets are completely immune to this problem, right? They may lay people off anyway, but they don't have to. But yeah, it's scary, man. It's scary.
All right, Steve, anything else before we conclude?
Anything else before we conclude? Gosh, Gene, I don't know. What do you think, man?
This is so fun. I'm so glad we did this. This is so great.
This is
Congratulations.
so great. It went super fast. Thank you for the congratulations. I am so looking forward to where this stuff goes. And it's been killing me. We've got one. Obviously, SourceGraph has got one of these, and it's better than this one right now. Probably Cloud Codes internally at Anthropic is better than this one too. You know what I mean? But still, it's been really difficult not to talk about ours. Stay tuned.
All right.
We actually had one of these before Cloud Code came out. So,
All right, then
stay tuned.
we'll await future news.
All right, cool. This was awesome.
See you, Steve.